You're listening to Puma Podcast.
I think the key is to act early. Kasi nga, the development is rather gradual. So essentially, we have several months of lead time to prepare, and that can be used for planning. No, in fact, they have already identified in November. So ito yung mga areas na potentially below normal yung ulan in December and January, February next year.
We have been seeing, reading, and hearing it all over the news. The Super El Nino is here. Some media reports have even called it Godzilla. But before we push the panic button, what does an El Nino event even mean? As early as April, the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA, raised its El Nino alert, echoing warnings being issued by scientists and weather agencies around the world. More recently, the Government Weather Bureau said that the El Nino conditions are expected to further intensify into a very strong event by the end of 2026 towards the first quarter of 2027. It's not the first time that we are faced with El Nino conditions, but what makes this one particularly worrying? And how does climate change fit into this picture? I'm Josette Enano, and you're listening to Teka Teka. In June, I spoke with meteorologist and climate scientist Dr. Rafaela Jane Delfino to walk us through what El Nino is, how and why it develops, and how the Philippines can best prepare for its worst impacts.
I'm Jane Delfino. So I currently teach and do research at the UP Institute of Environmental Science and Meteorology. So I'm a meteorologist, no, or a climate scientist. And I currently lead the Climate and High Impact Weather Laboratory, where in which we do work primarily doing research on climate change, climate variability, and also extreme events in the Philippines.
For today's conversation, I kind of want to focus on one particular climate event. And this is something that we're already seeing sa news, and that is the El Nino. Could you talk a bit more about what El Nino is? Perhaps both, I guess, in a more technical sense, but also on a more layman sense. Paano po ba nade-develop tong climate event na ito? And why do they occur?
Yes. Okay. So El Nino is actually a part of a natural climate pattern, which we refer to technically as the El Nino Southern Oscillation. So si El Nino is yung warm phase nung oscillation na yon, and si La Nina yung cold phase, no. So yung nangyayari during El Nino kasi, no, so yung binabantayan natin is yung katubigan, no. So essentially nasa Eastern and Central Pacific, no. So east of the Philippines. So during El Nino, mas nagiging mainit yung tubig doon sa Eastern and Central Pacific. Kaya natin siya tinatawag na warm phase. And during La Nina, cooler than normal. Itong changes na to, itong pag-init and paglamig ng tubig sa karagatang Pasipiko essentially have an impact on the atmospheric circulation. So essentially, paano gumagalaw yung hangin? Mas malakas ba? Mas mahina? Mas dumadami ba yung ulan? So hindi lang El Nino, La Nina. So in between meron tayong tinatawag na neutral conditions. No? So during neutral conditions, merong hangin na umiihip mula sa karagatang Pasipiko, yung tinatawag nating easterlies or trade winds. Pinupush na yung hangin mula sa east papuntang west kung asan tayo. So essentially dinadala niya yung relatively mainit na tubig papunta dito sa Western Pacific, no. So during El Nino, humihina tong trade winds na to. Itong mainit na tubig na nabubuo dito sa Western Pacific, parang kumakalat siya papuntang Central and Eastern Pacific, no. Kaya nandoon namubuo yung mas maiinit na tubig. Essentially, pag mainit yung tubig, ang nangyayari is the warm air rises. So essentially, yun yung conducive for cloud formation and development. So essentially, yung ulan, mas madaming ulan, nandito sa Eastern Pacific during El Nino. Pagdating naman dito sa banda natin, sa Western Pacific, humihina na yung hangin, no? So essentially, nandito yung sinking motion, no, sa atin during El Nino condition. So, yun ay hindi conducive or hindi maganda para mamuo yung clouds and then eventually yung ulan. Kaya during El Nino conditions, sa Pilipinas and the rest of the Western Pacific, relatively mas drought conditions or relatively dry conditions. So pag in-expect natin during El Nino conditions, um, medyo konti yung ulan relative to normal. So drier conditions, tapos relatively mas mainit.
How is climate change related to the El Nino Southern Oscillation or ENSO? Does it affect El Nino? Does it make it stronger?
So I think we can break that down into three general questions. So one is how does El Nino affect yung global climate change? No, so yung from El Nino to climate change. So essentially, 'di ba, usually we hear from early part of the year. We usually hear, say for example, 2024 is the warmest year on record. And then we have that 2016, for example, was the warmest year on record. So, yung relationship between El Nino and climate change is that yung during El Nino years, no, they actually push the overall global temperature a little bit warmer. No, so most of the top 10 warmest years on record. So, for example, 2024, 2016, I think 97, 98 were actually during El Nino years. The second question, which is I think more tricky one, is naka-apekto na ba si climate change sa El Nino Southern Oscillation? No, so ito ay isang very active area of research, no, and essentially scientists are still studying this relationship. Over the past several decades, no, yung yung El Nino occurs, yung frequency niya is around 2 to 7 years. No? And some scientists are showing na in the more recent decades, mas nagiging frequent na yung pag-swing from an El Nino to La Nina condition. So, after 1960s, mas mabilis na yung pag-swing from an El Nino to La Nina phase. The second is, mas napupush a little bit yung magnitude. No? So, kung gaano kalakas yung mga El Nino and La Nina events. No? So, there are studies that are showing that. Only that wala pang consensus as to how climate change has already affected El Nino itself. No, since El Nino is a naturally occurring phenomenon, no, and climate change is essentially a combination of natural and human-made factors, but only that yung climate change is actually being rapidly intensifying primarily because of the greenhouse gas emissions. And the third, I think, which is more important, no, so how will climate change affect El Nino Southern Oscillation in the future? So dito, mas, I think, very highly likely and that it will intensify the impacts of El Nino. And I think that relationship is primarily because, everything in our climate are related or interconnected.
And now, zooming in more closely po on the Philippines, no? Because we are already, Pag-asa itself po has already said na the El Nino conditions are already present. And so there is a high likelihood that we will see it towards the end of, or already happening towards this middle of 2026 hanggang 2027. And medyo nakakatakot din po yung ibang language na ginagamit. Sa at least sa reports po, they call it Godzilla El Nino or Super El Nino. Although I understand these are not necessarily scientific terms that scientists and meteorologists use po when they study these atmospheric conditions.
I think wala namang sigurong mali dun sa paggamit ng Super El Nino. But technically, we don't use it. So we use the weak, moderate, strong, and then very strong El Nino event. What scientists does is actually categorize the different El Nino events based on its threat. No? So we measure kasi in terms of how much warmer for El Nino is the sea surface temperature in the eastern central Pacific to an average, no, which we usually use it a relative or a baseline period of 30 years. No, so yung strength na yon, so kung plus 0.5 to 1 degrees to 1 degrees to 1.5 degrees Celsius, 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius are based on strength. So kung weak, so essentially 0.5 to 1 degrees. Tapos yung very strong is greater than 2 degrees Celsius. So which I think is what the media is referring to as Super El Nino. and observations are saying there's a 63% chance of a very strong El Nino by winter. So that's November, December, January up to February.
So you mentioned po earlier that with the El Nino event, we are expecting drier than normal conditions po, lesser cloud formation. So specifically po for the Philippines, which faces an average of 20 typhoons every year, what specific impacts po will we see in the coming months until I guess the early 2027 that is related to El Nino? Does it mean po ba na we'll have fewer storms or storms with lesser rainfall?
Pagdating sa bagyo, so during El Nino kasi, 'di ba nga mas malayo yung warm pool. So we expect na relatively in terms of number, frequency, no? So mas kaunti yung nagla-landfall, no? Kasi nandito namumuo malayo. Minsan hindi na umaabot sa PAR or hindi na nagla-landfall, nagre-recurve na most of the bagyo. But there are studies also showing, in fact, one of my students look at this, um, particularly during September, October, November, December. So essentially the peak typhoon activity in the Philippines. During El Nino conditions, since mas mainit nga yung tubig sa Karakatang Pasipiko, tas yung dadaan niya essentially mainit, 'di ba? So yung mga bagyo kasi pinagmumulan niya talaga ng energy is the warm ocean waters, no? So since madami siyang pagdadaanan dun sa mga nag-form and eventually made it to inside the Philippine area of responsibility and those that make landfall are actually more intense than than during neutral conditions. And hindi naman necessarily pag sinabi natin na relatively dry condition, wala na talagang ulan. No? So kailangan din nating maintindihan na bukod sa El Nino, may iba't iba pa ring weather systems na makakaapekto sa bansa. No? So nandiyan na yung habagat, may mga bagyo hindi naman mawawala, 'di ba? So although mas konti, meron pa rin naman, no? So yun magpapadala din yun ng ulan. We are still expecting tropical cyclones. Usually yung epekto kasi worse during the peak conditions. So essentially starting November, December, January. So we would really expect below normal conditions, below normal rainfall conditions across parts of the country. No? So and iba-iba din yung nagiging epekto niya sa iba't ibang lugar sa Pilipinas.
Are there certain regions, very specific po sa Pilipinas, na maaring mas maramdaman po nila yung effects more severely? Let's say, for example, is it areas, for example, in the eastern part of the country na nakatapat po sa Pacific Ocean, or is it more widespread po yung impacts, although syempre different in severity?
Yes, I think the last statement would be more accurate. No? So usually naman during El Nino conditions, no, I think very widespread talaga yung ano. Kung titingnan natin, especially if we talk about the past very strong El Nino event. So I think I cannot say yung specific regions kasi currently developing pa yung El Nino. But I think in general, particularly kasi nga drought conditions, so we would expect the major agricultural regions to be affected more than others. So mas vulnerable talaga yung mga lugar kung saan nangangailangan ng tubig. So yung those that are highly dependent on rainfall, particularly for example for agricultural areas, and they do not have the right infrastructure, for example, for irrigation to support um, during the cropping season, yun talaga yung I think pinaka-vulnerable. And yun yung mga lugar na kailangan nating bantayan.
And I recall po, Doc J, no, that the previous El Nino events in the Philippines, talagang mataas po yung nare-record na agricultural damage. Like, I'm looking at reports in 2024, the Department of Agriculture has recorded at least 15 billion agricultural damage due to El Nino alone. But seeing po, the models that we have right now, we already know po that the likelihood of this very strong El Nino is very high. So, ano po yung pwedeng gawin or dapat gawin rather of national and local governments to really help mitigate po the worst impacts for the agricultural sector, but also generally in making sure that our food systems and food security is not in the worst condition po pag tumama na yung pinaka-peak of the El Nino event.
Right. I think the key is to act early. No, so we should have prepared. I mean, we should have started preparations as early as February. No? So nakita natin na essentially, kasi nga the development is rather gradual. No, so we have time to prepare. No, so first thing I think is to listen to and essentially monitor yung pag-asa advisories. No, so essentially we have several months of lead time to prepare, and that can be used for planning. No, in fact, they have already identified, especially for example in November. So ito yung mga areas na potentially below normal yung ulan in December and January, February next year. Very critical din yung water resources natin. No, so in terms of our reservoirs and also our irrigation system. And then siguro more research on drought tolerant varieties of crops, no, that we can use. The farmers can actually plant during around El Nino conditions. And for us then as individuals, essentially, so alam naman natin na during El Nino conditions, especially during the latter part of the year, we would expect very dry conditions, below normal rainfall conditions. So we need to a little bit prepare for that. So essentially, conserve water. So meron din kasing hotter than normal temperature. So those that are highly vulnerable to heat stress, so the elderly, the children, and even the immunocompromised or essentially may mga sakit na. So we also need to prepare for that. And we also, as mentioned earlier, no, so hindi lang El Nino. Week on, week out, so we do experience different types of weather systems and yung compound effects nito. So pag nagsama-sama na may El Nino, we have, for example, might have strong typhoons. And essentially, ngayon, may localized thunderstorms tayong na-experience. No? So, yung compound effects of multiple hazards happening at the same time. And yun, weather and climate hazards pa lang yun. No? So, we do have other natural hazards such as earthquake.
Now that we are in the preparation stage, ano pong mga klaseng information should our listeners be on the lookout for? And what are some of these sources of information that we could turn to make sure that we are getting po the right information and are not being misinformed by perhaps what we're seeing on social media?
First thing first is to actually seek information from the official sources. So when it comes to climate information, that's Pag-asa. So they have the monthly climate forum. So I think that's available in YouTube. And then, of course, they have the website and Facebook pages. For agriculture, there's the Department of Agriculture, di ba? So they do provide specific information about how, for example, the agricultural sector can prepare for the impacts of ENSO, and they've been providing several aids to our farmers in preparation for ENSO. Others, local government units, no, so they can ask their local government units to provide information specific to their areas. Make sure that you are looking at official sources, no, and listening to the right people, no. And if you're not sure, and you seem that na parang to, medyo iffy yung source, then don't share.
While scientists are still studying the relationship between El Nino events and climate change, one thing is clear. The hotter and drier than normal conditions under El Nino provide us with a worrying preview of a hotter world. A world where food systems are put under strain, where coral reefs are threatened due to warming oceans, and where vulnerable populations are more exposed to heat-related health conditions. It is a terrifying future, but one that we can still change and also prepare for, just as we are and should be preparing for this very strong El Nino ahead of us. Super or not, we simply cannot rely on narratives of resilience to survive in this warming world. As Dr. Delfino reminds us, we still have time to act. Again, this is Gisette Enano, and you've been listening to Teka Teka. Our producer is Trisha Aquino. Audio for this episode is edited by Anthony Tobias. For more Teka Teka, follow us on Spotify or subscribe to the Puma Podcast channel on YouTube. Maraming salamat po.